But it wasn't about the business. It was about me. I realized that the reason I was experiencing this wasn't because something was going wrong in my business. It was because I wasn't at the level at which my business requires me to be at.
No finger pointing, right? If you would have pointed fingers, you would have just been stuck. It's a total game changer from a mindset standpoint. Like it's in the book, the title of the book kind of tells you a little bit about it: leadership and self-deception.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of the 8-Figure Agency Show, where a successful entrepreneur and a soon-to-be successful entrepreneur help you build an 8-figure agency by documenting our successes and our failures. Today, I'm really excited because we're going to be trying that new format. So for those of you who haven't listened or watched the last episode, this one right here, go watch that now because you're going to want to watch that and listen to that to understand everything that we're going to dive into today. So with that being said, I want to turn over the mic to Gary. And for us when we're filming this, it's literally Tuesday after New Year's weekend. So Gary, I'd love to hear how you're doing, how your New Year's weekend was, and we'll get right into it.
New Year's was amazing. Had a 4-day weekend. Everything's going good. I'm excited about this format as well. And I'm excited to learn about what you did to help you with your burnout. I know last time we talked, you were like, man, if this is what business is going to be, I'm checking out. And then I know we've sent some Slack messages until then, but I'd love for you to share with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had the episode about burnout, then I believe another one comes out after that. It's not out at the time we're filming this episode, but from last episode, I know I kind of said like, hey, what I did is I sat down and I went through my vision, right? And I basically mapped out my goals and realized like, okay, I have one choice to make. Either I do the things I don't want to do or my business fails. That was my ultimatum. That was my decision. But it's interesting, Gary, because what I've come to learn since that recording the last episode is there's a lot more in that process, right? You basically, so like seriously, if you're listening to this or watch this right now and you haven't watched or listened to that new episode that's already out as the time you're watching this, you should do that because it's going to really help to set the stage for this one. But Gary, you really hit the nail on the head when you basically explain like, hey, Derek, it's great you have all this. And what's going to happen is when you present it to your team, they're going to be like, hey, but we don't have this, we don't have this, and we don't have this. I was like, okay. Going into that, expecting it, when my team presented it to me and said, hey, but we don't have this, we don't have this, I was ready to build right away. And that's what I've been focused on doing, which thanks to you was the exciting part.
Yeah, because most of the time what usually happens, so like if what happened to me, I'll just say that. What happened to me early on is I was like, hey team, I need this. And they're like, Gary, what about this? What about this? And I'm just like, never mind, I'm going to work around you. Yep. And that's what I ended up doing. And it just creates for a horrible place to work. And no one wants to help you. You can't go very far like that.
Yeah, no, it was definitely quite difficult, which is why I actually did something that was quite difficult for me to do. I got really open about revenue. So I sat them down on our first month, like our first meeting of the year, and I said, guys, here's where we're going to go. Here's the numbers we want to hit by when. And what I'm going to do for you guys now is go through each department. And I'm going to build the accountability chart, build the org chart, label exactly what each of their responsibilities are, and set clear KPIs for the editing department, clear KPIs for the sales department, for client success, like churn rate and, new accounts closed and all of that good stuff. And they were really excited about it. Like they were really open about it. They're like, oh, finally, like a little bit more structure. A lot of people, it's crazy to me how many people actually love that kind of structure.
People love structure. So a lot of times, and I'm not comparing our team members to kids, but when working with younger kids, what you'll realize is kids really appreciate structure. Now, kids will always say, no, I don't want the structure, but they always crave it. They always run to it. And so humans are largely the same way. We want structure. We want predictability. We want to know what's coming, and we want to be able to plan for that accordingly. And so, yeah, people love the structure.
Yeah, I'll just wrap it up here with my update, and I'd love to hear your update, Gary, and what you're working on. My biggest takeaway in the last 30 to 45 days going through this process was the realization that, yes, I don't have this in my business, but it wasn't about the business. It was about me. I realized that the reason I was experiencing this wasn't because something was going wrong in my business. It was because I wasn't at the level at which my business requires me to be at. So I had to look internally and ask myself what's missing. So what I really came to understand.
No finger pointing, right? If you would have pointed fingers, you would have just been stuck.
I really came to understand that mainly where I'm lacking is I'm not a strong enough leader at this particular moment for the size in which my team is at and for the scale at which my company's at, right? So what I have to do is I have to go back to the drawing board, and my solution was reading. So like I've been sitting down and I'm reading a lot more now, and it's helping a ton. It's providing so much more clarity.
Have you read Leadership and Self-Deception yet?
No, but I'm writing that down now.
That's the one you need to read first.
Leadership and self-deception.
Now it'll mess you up, Derek. I'm going to tell you right off the bat. That book will mess you up.
How's that?
because it really changes the way that you think, right? You see online always like people get red pilled or blue pilled. I don't know what pill this is, but it's going to change your mind about who you are and how you show up, and then also how you interact with everybody in your life, not just work, but everybody. It's a total game changer from a mindset standpoint. Like it's in the book, the title of the book kind of tells you a little bit about it: leadership and self-deception. Yeah,
it sounds like it. I'm definitely going to order it right after this recording here. But
so I set out in 2022 to hit $20 million. We were the year before we were at 10, the year before we were at 3. So we then went from 3 million to 10 million, and then I wanted to go to 20 million. We had a bigger team. We had more resources. I didn't see any reason that we couldn't hit that goal. I was wrong and I was off. And I didn't even a whole year. I just kept telling myself, we're going to hit it, but we didn't. We hit 15 million. Now we grew by 50%, which is amazing. Most people would be like, dude, you should be really, really excited. I'm not excited about that. Growing by 50% is not exciting to me, especially when we aimed for so much more. So now our goal is to go from 15 to 30. And we're really pushing for that. We've hired some new people to help us with that. And really I'm starting 2 new podcasts that are going to be bottom of funnel, and we're doing 3 events this year. Last December we did our first event, and this year we're doing 3 events. So, and we have the partnerships. So we have all the catalysts to be able to do that. And I am going to be less in operations now, even more so than before, and really focusing on lead gen, top of funnel, middle funnel stuff. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm really excited about it.
That's really cool, because I remember your entire thing. You were always preaching about on the show how you were going to get there, and I it's really great that you're open about that you're getting vulnerable about it. Let me ask you this: what are you going to do this year? If I had to ask you like one thing, that if you only did this one thing going into next year, you can look back and say, I gave it the best shot and we got to 30 million. What's that one catalyst?
Well, let me start by why we didn't reach our goal of 20 million. So the reason we didn't reach our goal of 20 million was we miscalculated churn. So we had a much lower churn target than we should have. And I have people warn me, right? Like, Gary, you can't have this ridiculously low amount of churn, like, and that can't be your target. And also there was bumps in the road, right? As we made operational changes, big changes, it caused more churn, right? And so, so that's really at the end of the day, if we solve that, I think we have the pieces. We would have been like, if that disappeared, that problem disappeared, we would have been really close to our goal. If not 20 million, we'd have been like 18 million. So it kind of slipped through my fingers a little bit. Like it was I had the business. I was right on the projections. I was right on the opportunity, but I wasn't right about our structure. And that's why HubSpot's really going to help us out. So what we're going to be doing is actually implementing HubSpot and working on measuring why churn is happening specifically. Like that's the tricky part, is when you can't really get data to measure correctly. And then what you do, Derek, this is the exciting part, and this is where we're bringing in help. We're actually measuring, okay, why are people churning? What's the main reason for churn? What do we need to change? What do we need to adjust? Do we need to get different kinds of clients? Do we need to communicate differently? Whatever it may be. And then what we're doing is we're taking that documentation from inside the company, and then we're taking that voice, that scripting, and taking all the way through even to the marketing. So these 2 new podcasts I'm starting will actually act as a marketing arm that I'm going to be able to get information from the account management, and then everybody from every team member inside of SMC is going to speak the same way, use the same verbiage, use the same scripting all the way throughout. And that's really what's going to get us up to that $30 million range. This is another level of alignment and clarity, right? We always talk about alignment and clarity. Well, when you have a 10-person team, you can get everybody pretty much on the same page pretty quickly. When you get to 80 people, 100 people, whatever, and you really want to grow that, you have to be much more methodical about the communication and how things are being communicated. And then you also have to rely on data a lot more. So at 10 people, I can fill it out with my gut. Like if I say this, I'll get all the sales. Well, when you get to the size that we're at, my gut doesn't tell me. Like my gut's telling me both, right? Like sometimes I think this, sometimes I think that. So we're going to be using data on what our client, every time a client has an interaction with us, they're going to thumbs it up, thumbs it down. If they thumbs it down, what happened? Then we're going to be able to take all that communication and be able to actually analyze it. And then, of course, all the other stuff that we're able to break down and use to make our marketing better, make our sales process smoother, less friction, right? Make everything about less friction all the way through. And just that. I mean, that's I would say is what's going to get us to that 30 million mark.
So really solving for churn. So let me ask you this, because I'm seeing two linking factors here actually between what I brought up and what you're bringing up. And there's main two things. Number one, I'd love to dive more into churn, because I feel like a lot of people listening might be newer agency owners, or might be agency owners that haven't experienced major churn yet, including myself. In all honesty, I've had churn. I've lost clients this year, probably to the tune of like 10 to 12K in MRR, which for me, that's huge. It's like 30% of my company, right?
Yeah. That's a big
but yeah, no, of course, it's a lot of churn, definitely. But so I'd love to dive more into churn, but also the levels, because it sounds like, and I think a lot of people that listen to this show, they might pick up on it, they might not, the levels to the game, or even at the level you're at, there's still another level to get to double your business right now in management and team, and it goes back to the same thing. So I'd love to break down what people listening, and myself, and you included, Gary, could do to level up. So let's dive into churn a little bit. What could we do to solve churn if we're at a smaller level like mine?
Well, here's the cool part. So when I was the account manager and the salesperson, our messaging was very concise, right? Because I was the one selling it, and then I would manage the account. And we did that up to $3 million in ARR up to that point. So we didn't need any. I was the system. You know what I mean? And so we didn't. And our churn was very low, very, very low, because I knew what to say, and because I also had experience in almost every single department inside the company. I've done almost every single job. So our churn was really low because I knew when to say it, how to say it, et cetera, et cetera. Now we have an account management team that has, we have 7, 8 people on it. And then we also have a marketing team who's the product that we sell. That's a separate team. Just getting them to work together is a lot, right? Like there's a constant tug and pull between them. So my answer to that, Derek, is it depends on where you were at. But the thing that I'm learning now that I didn't know before was I thought that the reason that we don't have churn is because I'm the one doing it. That there was some truth to that, but I think even if I was going to break it down even further, it's consistent messaging between sales, marketing, sales, and account management. If you can have that consistent messaging, then no one's disappointed. Everybody knows what to expect. And then when something does go off the rails, it's in the context of what was sold, right? So one thing that I would do on the sales calls is I tell people, here's where you're probably going to fail. And then sales, and then as the account manager, I'd say, remember I told you that we were going to fail here? Don't worry, we have the answers for that. And so having that cohesive messaging, then people aren't being let down, right? So I would say if you are struggling with this, look at your process. In your marketing, are you saying the same thing that you're saying in the sales process? And in your sales, and then in your account management, are you saying the same thing that was said in the sales process? Have you got alignment in that area? And if you have, then you're going to have a huge win there.
Okay, so let me make sure I understood you properly. So you're basically saying consistent messaging, making sure that what you sell is actually what you deliver, but more so specifically in terms of how you promise things. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. Make sure that
100%.
you don't sell stuff that you can't actually do. And the second major thing that I heard was managing expectations, which is basically that same thing. Like manage the expectations of the clients.
It's the flip side of it. Not overpromising, but also setting expectations properly of what's going to happen, how it's going to feel. How do you make sure that because most people will still work with you. It's not like it's not like we were lying to people, right? It's just we weren't telling the whole story, and that wasn't anybody's fault. It was just like the salesperson didn't have the context on it. They've never worked inside of the product, or they never worked as an account manager, or whatever it may be. And then the other cool part that we're also working on, and this is where those podcasts come in. So when we take the questions that are in sales and in account management, and I have a mastermind with these groups that we created. So now we have all these people we work with and that we don't work with in this mastermind for dental offices. So we're taking all that information, compiling it in HubSpot, and then we're looking at, okay, what are the top issues that these people are dealing with? And then we take that back out into sales. Then we take that back into the podcast, and I bring them on as guests to talk about it. So then everybody else hears it and goes, oh, I'm going through the same thing. And then the cycle repeats. So it's really exciting.
No, that is really, really exciting. So let me ask you this. Let's take it one step further on the churn conversation. Let's say we're talking to a good percentage of the audience here where they're a one-man or one-woman show in their agency, Gary, and they don't really have a team to keep consistent messaging in, and their messaging is fairly consistent, but their churn is quite high. What would you say to that person?
You need to figure out why the churn is happening. So I know it sounds simple, but a lot of times what I know before, Derek, what I would do when I had churn, I'd be like, whatever, they're not the right client. You know what I mean? And it was just so easy for me to just brush off. But well, let me back up with this too. First of all, you need to make sure that you're bringing in the right client. So do you have an avatar? Because if you don't have an avatar and you haven't niched down, then good luck trying to figure out why your churn's happening, right? Like it may be different for every single different kind of client. But if you've niched down, you have a clear avatar, and then when that person decides to leave, ask them the tough question. Hey, why are you leaving? That's stage one. Now, here's the other thing that I've learned through this process. Just because someone says, oh, we're leaving, my CEO said that we need to cut our cost and we're going to bring it in-house, blah, 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 blah. That might be the reason today why they're leaving, but you need to go back and track what was the straw. That's the straw that broke the camel's back, but what led up to it? What were the 4 or 5 friction points? And this is where one thing that HubSpot's amazing at is it helps you build frictionless sales, onboarding, and processes and it measures everything, right? How quickly did you get back to them? How long did it take? Everything's measured inside of that. And so you have to create a frictionless experience. And I think this is really important to understand in the day and age that we live, and that when I go online and I order things, it's frictionless. When I want food, it's frictionless. When I want everything that I do in my life is frictionless. So when I encounter friction, it puts up my walls instantly. And so you have to, as a business owner, have to continuously work on reducing that friction. And that's the process that I would take people through.
Got it. So basically make sure that there's as little friction as possible in your process.
Yeah, and then I would also go and ask them, though, why are you leaving? So what was the straw that broke the camel's back? And then you have to go back and figure out, okay, what were the things leading up to that? What friction points caused this? Did I forget to return an email? And I think this is why I'm such a stickler on communication, Derek. I think that if you just over-communicate and get back to people quickly and stay on top of things, that solves a bulk of these problems, especially in the early agency stages.
Definitely does. It definitely does. I think one thing that really separated my growth from others is my communication. That's literally core value number one in my company, both in the team and to the client-facing side of things. And I'm actively losing my voice mid-recording this podcast, so this is quite interesting. But Gary, to kind of recap that, you're saying everything that you just said applies for not just one-man or one-woman shows, but for bigger agency owners, even yourself as well, right? The consistent messaging, the managing expectations, and creating a frictionless experience, but the higher level is the systems, the processes, and the data to track how frictionless that experience actually is.
Yep, exactly. And getting data, the bigger you get, the harder it is to get data, and the harder it is to move platforms.
It's so tough. Yeah. It's so tough. Even at my level, it's brutal. I can't even imagine what goes into it at your level. It's just like it sounds
6
horrible.
months. It's like, okay, we're changing platforms, this, and then it's like 3-month rollout for phase 1, 3-month rollout for phase 2, and that's aggressive. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's painful.
It sounds very painful. I want to really quickly, Gary, switch gears here because this will apply to everything we do in business, and I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people. The concept of leveling up, Gary. How many times in your entrepreneurial career thus far have you had to level up to get yourself to the next level where you hit that wall, and then you had to do this one thing? You had to learn this lesson that then led to that 10x growth. What was that like for you on your journey?
Yeah. The biggest one that really turned the tables for me. So again, I'm going to use this as like a red pill, blue pill, right? Where you're like, oh, I think that life's this way and it's really the opposite way, right? So the biggest pill that I ever swallowed was when I realized that I always knew in business that if I helped other people get to what they wanted, that I could have whatever I wanted, right? So if I go out, whatever I'm selling, it doesn't matter what I'm selling. If I help other people reach their goals, then I'm going to reach all my goals. That's basically how business works, right? And so what I didn't realize, though, is that same principle applied to the team that I worked with as well. I didn't pin those together, and then that really slowed me down. So for the first half of my business life, I thought culture and all that stuff was just straight garbage. I thought all of it was fluff for people to sell books. And I literally didn't pay attention to it. I just wrote it off as nonsense. But now what I'm realizing is that it's the most important thing. And without it, you're never going to get to where you want to go. Like, you literally have to learn that portion of it to get to where you want to go. Now, there's people who reach their goals without it, but they probably don't enjoy it quite as much, right? Like, people hate them, stuff like that, right? And we see these people in the news. But yeah, I think that's a huge component of it. And I would say that was the biggest. The other thing is just the slinky that we always talk about. Business is just a repetitive cycle, whether you recognize it or not. And it's just a constant leveling up and getting better at that cycle, and then getting experts at each level to come in and help you on the next stage of the cycle.
Let me ask you this. What, if you had to recommend 5 books that have transformed your entire business career, what books would those be?
5 books. I would say Who Not How. I would say Leadership and Self-Deception. I would say Conversation Worth Having. I would say The Go-Giver.
The Go-Giver.
Mm-hmm. Amp It Up is really good for company culture. And there's one other one. Oh, yeah. High Output Management is amazing. That's an amazing book.
High Output Management.
Yeah. And then if I was going to add a bonus one, 0 to 1's really good. And then The Obstacle is the Way is more of a mindset book, but that one's good too.
We asked for 5 and got 8. I am not complaining. That is awesome. That's really cool. I really think, and this is what my update's going to be for people in the next episode, Gary, and I'd love to hear what you want to update people on. Is really going to be, is this working? Because right now it has to work. If this doesn't work, I have no answers then. I have to level up personally in order to support the business growth right now, and I need to learn how to manage a team better. I need to learn, possibly who I need to hire. Who Not How sounds like a great book that I need to get into as well, to really become a better manager, become a better leader.
High output management is where you should probably start then.
Start there focus as well.
Yeah.
Well, right now I'm in the middle of this guy right here, and I'm almost done. I want to finish this like today if I could. So I'm going to finish this one.
It's more of the system side of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The 7 dysfunctions of a team is. See, here's the thing. If you said, "Hey, Gary, give me 5 books," and then broke them down by like section, then I could do it. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. So like company culture wise, the 5 dysfunctions of a team is like a must read. If you haven't, that's so foundational. It's a must read.
Yeah, I was recommended that book earlier today as well. Gary, what would you like to update the audience on in the next episode?
Next episode is, I'm going through some transitions right now. I can't share it all publicly yet, but I'm going to have some new information, some changes of my role, and I'm really excited about that. But I can't share a lot on it right now.
Got it. So we'll keep you on the back burner for that, because I think everybody wants to hear about those updates. But on my end, guys, I'm definitely going to update you guys on the the personal development and on the leveling up here, so you guys can see me go through that process live, because I have to get to that next level. And Gary talks about this all the time. I've got to level up first, so I'm excited to take you guys with me on that journey. Gary, any final parting thoughts here?
No, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, all that stuff. We're trying to 100x our growth on this channel. So.
Absolutely. We're going to hit those numbers. With that being said, guys, thanks so much for watching and listening. Thanks for being here with us. I hope this episode provided you a ton of value. We covered everything from churn to an update on the burnout that I was experiencing, to an update on what Gary's working on into 2023 and what revenue numbers he hit and didn't hit from last year and how he's going to fix that going into next year. Don't miss next week's episode, because we're going to provide a bunch of updates from this one in next one, so don't miss it. Be there Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. With that being said, guys, leave us a review wherever you watch, listen, leave a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and check us out on TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. Those calls to action are getting really long. Gary,
have a great day.
Peace out, everybody.